For 45 years, the official record said the Soviet Union lost its grip on international hockey because the West finally built teams good enough to beat them. The Kremlin made sure you'd never learn that the roster walking onto that ice was never their real one. Those players trained every day. They just weren't allowed to travel. That's the story they tell. It isn't what happened. Someone made sure you'd never hear this. Here's what the records were rewritten to hide. The Soviet hockey machine was unlike anything the world had seen. From the late 1960s through the early 1980s, Central Red Army, CSKA Moscow, was the factory. Players entered as teenagers. They lived together, trained together, ate together. 6 days a week, 11 months a year. By 1976, the Soviets hadn't lost a world championship in 14 years. Western scouts called their program unkillable. What it also had, and what no one discussed, was a secondary classification, a designation that appeared in no public documentation. Athletes considered good enough to represent the country, and precisely because of that, too dangerous to let leave it. The first crack appeared in a partial KGB sports file declassified in 1994. Most journalists missed it entirely. The file referenced something called Category 0, Category 0. Players listed here were classified as flight risks, based on behavioral assessments conducted during training camps, not for anything they had done, for what analysts predicted they might do if given access to a Western city and 30 minutes alone. The file named 31 Soviet athletes across multiple sports flagged between 1974 and 1982. 11 were hockey players. Their names appear on no official national team roster during those years. In the official record, they were injured every single season. Rotating injuries, always serious enough to prevent travel, never serious enough to end a career. They were playing. They just weren't playing in front of you, but that's not the part they buried. The obvious explanation is that this was standard Soviet state control, oppressive, well-documented, and expected. You've heard that story. The part you haven't heard is what happened when the West found out, because they did find out. Not in 1994. In 1979, a Swedish national team physician traveling to a closed exhibition series in Leningrad filed an internal report to the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation, documenting what 2 Soviet coaching assistants told him off the record. There was a second roster. There were players he had watched practice that morning who would not be on the ice that evening. The report was received, logged, filed. No investigation was opened. No public statement was made. The IIHF's position, communicated privately to member federations over the following 2 years, was that raising the issue would endanger the entire international competition framework and the television contracts attached to it. The money was too large, the politics were too delicate, the report stayed buried. The physician retired in 1983. He gave one interview in Swedish to a regional paper in Gothenburg in 1991. It was never translated, it was never picked up. This was not a secret between 2 parties. A secret between 2 parties is called cheating. This involved 3. The Soviets suppressed their own players. The IIHF suppressed what it knew. Western media, fed results from official sources, reported what it was given. Every record from that era carries a footnote that was never written. The teams that beat the Soviets beat an incomplete squad. The teams that lost to them lost to an incomplete squad. The 11 players on that secondary list most never competed internationally at all. A handful surfaced on club rosters in the mid-1980s after KGB classifications lapsed. By then they were past their peak. They played out quiet careers. They did not speak publicly about what had been taken from them. One of them died in 2019. His obituary listed his sport as hockey. It listed no international appearances. It offered no reason why. For 45 years, the official story was that you saw the best hockey the Soviet Union had. You didn't. You saw the version they were willing to risk. The players on that list never asked to be removed. They were removed because someone decided their loyalty was a question mark, and a question mark wasn't worth the embarrassment if they ran. What they lost doesn't fit into statistics. The championships they didn't win. The contracts they never signed. The careers that peaked in a practice rink no one outside the program was ever supposed to enter. And the federation responsible for protecting the integrity of international sport looked at what it knew, weighed it against the broadcast revenue, and chose to file it away. That choice has never been acknowledged. No apology was ever issued. No record was ever corrected. The 1994 document is still partially redacted. 63 pages, 11 names. 4 of those names remain blacked out. We know what those players could do. We know who knew they existed. We know who decided not to ask. What we don't know, what no one has ever confirmed, is whether the IIHF report from 1979 was the only one, or just the only one that survived.